Dream RV Rentals. This will be an instructional video for our 2017 Sunseeker 3100 by request. Just go over the main things of how to use basic stuff we need every day. Thermostat's pretty simple. This is your toggle switch. It just goes down through the options. Most people will leave the fan on auto simply because you don't have to change anything. You can put it on high or low, but sometimes it seems to be more trouble than it's worth. AC is cool, obviously. The furnace is your propane furnace, which is what you're going to use if you're not plugged in. If you are plugged in or running the generator, you can use the heat pump. But one thing I'd like to point out in these campers is that the heat pump does not heat underneath the camper. If you're camping in very cold temperatures, you have to use the furnace to heat up the tank and pipe area. Even though it gets warm in here with the heat pump, it's not going to heat underneath the camper, even with the Arctic pack. If you're camping where it's way below freezing, you got to use the furnace. Plus the furnace is really a better heater because it uses propane. The heat pump can't pull any heat out of the air. If it's below freezing, it really is just lukewarm air. How to use the bathroom stuff. Pretty straightforward, but just to show you, this is your flushing the toilet. It's not like your toilet at home where you have a full tank of water that flushes down. It just kind of squirts some water. Sometimes we'll leave a gallon jug in here just in case extra water is needed. And the bidet only works when you have the pedal down, so you have to be flushing the toilet for it to spray out. If you hit the handle and you're not hitting the pedal, it's not going to spray out any water. The shower has a little lock on it, and it's also magnetic, so if you're driving, you want to push it to the right to lock it. If you want to open it, pull it to the left. Very easy to break off, just plastic. And it's a magnet, so you got to give it a little pull. But while you're driving, keep it locked, because it will swing open, and that's all glass. The fridge as well. Had a lot of these get broken. To open it, you have to push and then pull. Same thing on both of these. Push, then pull. Microwaves, self-explanatory. The stove it's more like a grill than a stove. The way that it works, you just turn on the propane, turn it on to light or high, and the igniter you turn to the right. Make sure you turn it to the right to ignite. If you turn it to the left, it will immediately break. A lot of questions about the tanks, so I'll just show you up here how to use this. These are the tank indicators. On our RVs, I flush them a lot, so they're actually accurate, but sometimes they're not totally accurate if you've been using them a lot. But this tells you how much a ballpark is in the black and gray tank, and this also tells you your freshwater level. It's winterized right now, so there's no water, just antifreeze in it. Also has battery and propane levels. These are just ballparks. It's not super accurate. This is how you turn on the generator. Your switch is inside. There's one outside, but you use this one mainly. You just make sure you're not plugged into power, and you hold down the bottom until the little red light comes up. I usually hold it for about 5 seconds. It primes the fuel pump, and then you hold it down to start it. And I'm not going to start it right now because I'm plugged in, but you just hold it down and you'll hear it start and the little red light stays lit. That means it's running. The little gauge with the time will stay on. That means that it is running and the clock starts going. Your water heater can work off gas or electric. Gas is way more efficient and heats it faster. And electric, honestly, in 30 amp coaches, it's not a good idea. It uses about 15 amps. So if you're using the electric water heater option, you'll blow a breaker when you try and use the microwave or AC. Usually just use gas. The water pump, you only use this if you're not hooked up to water. This pulls water from your freshwater tank, 44 gallon under the bed. So if you're driving down the road or if you're camping without hookups, you have to leave the water pump on. When you turn it on, it builds up pressure and stops. Once it builds up enough pressure, you'll kind of hear the noise. It's like a rumbling. If you are hooked up to water, do not turn the water pump on. The Arctic pack, it's simply a little heating pad that sits on the bottom of your waste tanks. It's so that the waste tanks don't freeze. Now it does, in this camper, it does not heat the exit waste tube. So if you're camping below freezing, basically run the furnace and keep the Arctic pack on if you're plugged in. If you're not plugged in, just use the furnace. I would highly not recommend boondocking when it's below freezing, but if you have to, just make sure your furnace is on, and if your battery voltage gets low, you'll hear the beeping from the propane detector. Just start the truck up. Obviously the campers are made for camping at campgrounds where you're plugged in, but I know we're all adventurous, so if you're not plugged in, that's how you have to do it, because you don't want to get stranded. These are the lights for the living room and kitchen. The living room light is also down by the door. As soon as you come in, there's a switch. It's a three-way between this and that one. This is your slide out switch. It moves this one in and out. It will not work if the keys are in the ignition. And basically you just hold it till it goes all the way in or all the way out. And this is the noise it makes when it's all the way in or all the way out. That's the motor's limit. Seat belts are easy. It's like an old car seat belt. Just hit the buckle, comes out. Roller blinds, same as a house. Now these windows are interesting. It's this plastic thing, you have to pull it towards you and open the window. So just got to be careful with that because it's plastic. Now the TVs, you could probably make a whole video in and of itself on those, but the gist of it is you have to turn it on by selecting which one. This can also do the DVD player, and if you want to switch between them, you hit the source button. Now all the TVs seem to use the same software, so if you're trying to use the antenna, first off you have to make sure this little button up here is on. See the little green light? That means your antenna amplifier is on. The antenna is up here itself. You have to turn the switch on the side to on. That means that your antenna's on, and then you just go into either TV and you go to channel and auto scan and select air, and it'll scan for channels, and it does actually get quite a bit of channels. Like right here we get about 30 channels, so it does work better than the old ones. All the lights have little tiny button switches in the middle of them, on top of having switches on the wall. So if any of the lights aren't working, it's one or the other. And I noticed on all the new campers, these LED lights, sometimes if you hit the buttons and they're not working, just press up hard on it. I'm not sure why that is, but they all do that. The truck itself is a very basic Ford E450. No frills here. Emergency brake, always set the emergency brake when you're parked. I have it down now. The release is right here. If you had to open the hood switch is down there. I check these before they leave. I set tire pressures. Everything's good to go, but if you did need to open the hood, that's where it is. There is cigarette lighter chargers all over this thing. There is one down there, one up here, one here, plus the USB charging ports up here. Now, a common question that we do get is, do you get power while you're driving? You don't. When you're driving this, all you have is 12 volt power, which means you don't have outlet power from these normal outlets or your microwave. Now, your refrigerator in these is propane and 120, so if you're driving down the road or if you're not plugged in, you just hit it into auto mode. The other button is if you want to force it to use propane, which you don't usually want to do. Just hit auto before you leave, and if you are not plugged in, it will use propane and 12 volt, and if you are plugged in, it will use that power. It automatically switches over. This fridge is not like a residential fridge. It does take a little bit to get cold, so if you're using it and it's hot outside, try to close the doors as soon as you can. It works great, it just takes it a while to get cool because it's not like a residential one. None of them are. If you want power while you're driving, you have to run the generator. These coaches do not have inverters except our Class A. So, not a big deal for most people, but I think it's confusing since it has two different power systems in it for some people. Just trying to explain that. And on these, this has 4 roof vents, and we've installed covers on all these, so you can open any of these while you're driving, or if it's raining. It's safe to open them. Sure, this time of year nobody's going to be opening them, but... And this one is the one that has a power fan. Well, there's one in the bathroom too, but this is a huge fan, and it's automatic. You just hit the buttons to go through the speed, and it will automatically turn off if it's closed. You have to open it up for it to turn on. And this, I guess I'll show you. This is where your ladder goes. You pull this out, it just slides out and sits here for your bunk bed, and you just hook the 2 ladder hooks right here into right here. And in this one, actually, that's the best way to get up. In some of them, they have a dinette you can kind of hop up off of, but this one, there's not much. It's too high. Even for me, you kind of got to use the ladder. Oh, the couch is a jackknife, so you just pull up on it and it kind of comes out into a bed. I'm not going to do it because the seatbelts are going to fall down. And this one is a Dream dinette. They all just have this lever. You pull it down and around like that, and it just comes down. It's on a little shock back there. You just push down after you release it, and it will go down and lock into right here. And then you have a flat bed surface. You squish the cushions in, and that gives you a little bed here. Actually, pretty comfortable bed for kids. My kids like those beds. If you don't have a lot of people, though, I wouldn't use that as a bed because it's kind of annoying to unconvert that every day when you want to make breakfast after it's all set up into a bed. This bed up here is actually the largest bed in here. The rear one is a queen, but this one is just bigger than a queen. I'm not sure the exact dimensions. The RVs are 8 feet wide, so you can imagine how long this is. And it's pretty wide. One of the reasons we choose Forest River, they have huge overheads. And this is the weight limit for the overhead cab. I'll do another video of outside. Once again, Dream RV Rentals.